Hey beloved, my name is Krista Pettiford. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Call for More podcast if you're listening. So wherever you're watching or listening, welcome. Today I want to share a bit of my personal journey into midlife. And so I am actually challenging myself to do Vlogtober on my YouTube channel. And I thought, what do I have to talk about that could be so important and interesting to other people for 40 days? And what I came to think about is a book I've been writing for the past almost 3 years called Take the Reins, A Woman's Guide to Brave Change. And it's about, I was going to name this book 40 something letters from my younger self to the woman I've become, because the book is based on letters that I wrote to myself when I was turning 45. When I was turning 45, I looked up one day and I realized that life was not what I thought it would be. I was not where I thought I would be, and I was stuck in an expired season, waiting for change to come, praying for change to come. But the experience I had made me realize that God oftentimes leaves change up to us, and that takes being brave for us to change from the thing that we're used to. And so these letters were letters from my younger self to the woman I become, confronting me. And why do I say from my younger self? I'll tell you why. Because my younger self is the person who's been with me through all of life, and she knows me better than anyone else save the Lord himself. And so she was there when I gave my life to Christ. That was her. She was there when I made all my mistakes, and she bore the cross of all that foolishness, right? And so there's benefit to hearing from your younger self, tapping into that space and that place in your inner man where you hear and you see things from the perspective of your eternal self. That's another way to put it. Most people, when they think about having conversations with themselves, they think of the older giving advice to the younger, what you would have done. But in this case, as I was writing and as I was sharing, as I was going through this experience, should I say, the tables got flipped. And I remember sitting on my couch one day after my mom passed away, and I was preparing to write this book about the journey to middle age, because I thought I had something that I could offer to women, because I was a teenage mom, and then I was a single mom. I was married, then divorced, and even through all of life's tragedies, I raised my kids. I had a career in IT. I lived in a wonderful neighborhood and a beautiful home, and I was a women's ministry leader, and there was a lot of success and a lot of things I thought that I could share about my journey that could help women who are going through any of the things that I have been through, with the wisdom and the lessons that I learned, take from it so that their journey didn't have to be as hard, or that they could have a little piece of advice. And so this particular book I wanted to write was going to be lighthearted and witty. But my mom passed away, and then things shifted for me, because I realized that I didn't want to continue to live my life the way that I was living it. I was playing it safe. I was, everything was unrattled, but I was unhappy inside. And sometimes it takes something to shift you, to awaken you. And honestly, I had so many things unexpectedly happened to me over the past decade that my mom's passing away just kind of pushed me over the edge. And normally I'm a person who keeps going, and it doesn't matter. I don't let things trigger me, or I don't pay attention. I don't let my triggers go off. I just keep going. And I realized I couldn't keep going, and I sat there on my couch about to write this book but I felt so disingenuous. I felt fake because I wasn't living up to the advice that I was writing about. Yes, I could teach it, but I wasn't living it out. Like walk with confidence and be authentic and all these things. I was not doing that. And so as I sat down to write, it was like God was telling me that I needed to stop and take stock of my life. And then there on my couch, when I sat down to write after my mother passed away, it was like my younger self was sitting looking at me. She was a mirror that I saw my past, my present, and my future through. Now, my mother was a wonderful woman. Her and my father were married for over 35 years, but eventually they divorced, but they remained very good friends until she passed away, and he remarried, but my mother never did. And I saw myself becoming that way. I love my mother. She gave her life to her children and her grandchildren, and that is so good and wonderful, but she never went after any of her dreams. Maybe we were her dreams. I don't know, because she did it so seamlessly. But I know that I had so many unfulfilled dreams. I was always waiting for the right time, always putting people before myself, especially having been a teen mom. I had never really knew what it felt like to live for myself or be happy, and not in a selfish way, just in a way that I experienced something that I chose. And so this was that moment when I was looking at myself and I was realizing that I had played it safe. I had stayed stuck in a situation that was all the way over and past due, but I was waiting for it to change, praying for it to change, just standing in that same place. And it was an expired season, and it was like in that moment I saw myself through the eyes of my younger self. She showed me my past and how I had got there. And then she showed me where I was at, and it was this moment of truth. And then she showed me where I would go. I saw myself 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I didn't make some changes, if I wasn't brave enough to change my life and change the course of my life, that I would be in that same place, waiting for change, hoping for change, serving others, but miserable inside. And so it was in that moment that I decided that even if I failed, that I deserved to live, to step out on some of the dreams and live, as it were, just a bit for her, to give myself a chance to follow my dreams, my God-given dreams, and that God would back me up on it. I believe that by grace through faith, that God wanted a better life for me than I was living, that he wanted for me to do more than just exist and stay in the box that I had allowed to limit me, but that he wanted me to thrive. And I remember sitting there thinking, if not now, when is going to be the right time? My children are out of the house. I'm an empty nester, though I'm young. I was so afraid to make changes. So I had to pause. I had to pause because, people on the internet, they will tell you to go and quit your job, do all these crazy things. But the reality is that when you are an adult, you have responsibilities, you have a life, you have things that you have to plan out, and you have to strategize, and you have to know that God is for you and that you're going in the right direction. That is wisdom, not to just act on emotion. And so even though I had all these feelings and I knew I needed to change, I had taken this moment to pause for a time for prayerful introspection. And that is when I really tapped into hearing the voice of my younger self. And let me give you some Bible for that. And so in this, for 31 days, what I'm going to try and do is come and share one of those letters and discuss it with you. And if you are listening on the podcast, you can go to my YouTube channel, Krista Pettiford Chan, CHAN, short for channel, so that you, or just Google Krista Pettiford and you can find me on YouTube, or search Krista Pettiford, and then you can follow along if this is speaking to you. And so, let us talk about the younger self. Your younger self is your eternal self. She's been with you throughout your entire life. She's the gatekeeper of your past, the guardian of your secrets, and the treasurer of your memories. 1 Corinthians 2:11 says, and this is Paul speaking, for what man knows the things of a man, save the spirit of a man which is in him? Even so, the things of God knows no man but the Spirit of God. So it is that thing where no one knows you except for the Spirit which is in you, and that is your younger self. And she can really be your eternal self. It's tapping back into her and not just speaking to her, but hearing from her, because she has a lot to say. She's seeing you, she hears you, she knows you, she feels you. Again, she is the gatekeeper of your past, the guardian of your secrets, and the treasurer of your memories. Okay, and she knows what's in your heart and those dreams, just like the Lord does. She was that girl that was there, young and free, and she bore the weight of you coming of age, just like my younger self bore the weight of me coming of age and making mistakes. She gave her life to Christ, and so we walk with her. We walk with him now, but she, your younger self, let me keep it in the one person and not more than one, she gave her life to Christ. Some of her dreams never happened. They never came true. But you carry those in your heart, and you may have new dreams that she wants you to know it's okay to let go of the dreams that you had when you were younger. She is sealed in the annals of time, awaiting eternity. She calls out for you to redeem the time that you have left and live a little bit for her, for this younger self, to remember her and honor her so she can rest knowing all is well. She has passed the baton to you. Let your pledge be to finish her race. And during this course of my self-dialogue, or my dialogue with my younger self, the charge from her was to continue to wage a good warfare according to the promises and prophecies that were spoken over her. That's 1 Timothy 1:8, knowing that he who began a good work in her will complete it in me. Philippians 1:6, she is cheering me on and encouraging me not to give up or to look back, but to finish our race with grace and faith. She expects me to know better, be better, and do better than her. And I would say the same for you. And so I've written this book, and I've been really struggling with sharing it because it's so personal. And when I started to write this book, I figured I was in a place where I was being vulnerable, but then I closed back up and I'm like, do I really want to share this much? But I'm sharing it today. And in the book, I take you through this process of pausing and praying and taking the reins of your life, not in a way where you're taking them from God, but when you are choosing to make brave change, right? When you are choosing to follow God, to hear from him, to pause and pray and get a new plan for your life, paint a new picture for your life. And then there's exercises to go through. There's questions that help you break through. But after those questions, I share my letters, and these questions will help you write letters to yourself, and hear from your younger self, and tap into that eternal self and hear the wisdom, hear the knowledge, hear the direction that she can give you. And then you'll be able to write your own letters. So today I want to share one of my letters. I won't get all into the book, but I do want to say that when you're making brave change, there is a time to count the cost, to prepare, to understand what you're getting yourself into, not to just run out and do. So that pause is so necessary, taking the time to paint a new picture of what happiness and success looks like for you when you've been stuck in a past season, or even if you haven't been stuck, even if you just know that you need to change because you're no longer happy, and not just happy in a selfish way, but happy in a way that you are fulfilling your God-given assignment, where you are being effective, right? If you're not able to do that, then God may be tapping into you to do something different. So I'm going to share my letter. And as the week goes on, as the month goes on, these Vlogtober videos will probably be shorter. I hope you guys don't hear my AC too loud. I did turn off the fan. I have on the AC and the fan because it's super hot in San Diego. It's October 1st and it should be fall, but it is over 100 degrees and it's at night. So go figure. Global warming, yes, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, so I want to talk about intersections, because the way that the Lord gave this to me before I get into my first letter is that intersections are a place where two or more points meet. And I'm looking at my laptop, so if you're watching me, as it relates to life, an intersection is a connection between two stages of life. It is also the pivotal point in life where an old season ends and a new season begins, or two seasons meet. There are many intersections in life, but I want to talk about the common intersections in a woman's life. So there's coming of age, which is turning 18 or 21, whichever people think. There's midlife, and there's the senior years. So this is a woman. This is not adolescence. Other intersections that most women, if not all women, face are leaving their parents' home, getting married, having children, their children leaving home, and retirement, changing careers and income levels, moving from a beloved home, community, or church, or other intersections. But unexpected intersections that are more difficult to navigate are failed plans, losing a job, a divorce, a life-threatening illness in yourself or a loved one, losing a parent, a spouse, or a child. These are unavoidable life events that demand our attention and force us to choose a direction. We can keep going in the same way, or we can choose a new path. And sometimes that takes bravery, and sometimes these things come, and what the enemy meant for evil, the Lord wants to use for good. So sometimes when we face unexpected life events, God wants to use those for change. He wants to use that change, that unexpected event, to bring us into a new path, a new direction. And so I want to talk about those stages of life. As we pass through the stages of life, we are meant to grow into the women that God called us to be. And so those stages are meant to help us grow into the women that God called us to be. It never happens overnight, but through the stages of life, you can grow into the fullness of who God called you to be. During our 20s, after we come of age, most women have great aspirations for our lives and the work we want to do. Now, this might not be you, but this is a lot of women. However, we soon realize the hard work it takes to accomplish our goals. That's when the grind of doing the work to become the wives, mothers, professionals, entrepreneurs, and even servant leaders God called us to be, in whatever order these things happen, begins. We begin the grind of trying to make it happen. During this period, many of us feel like we have something to prove to everyone, including ourselves. As we enter our 30s, we often discover life is full of ongoing inequalities, disappointments, and unrealized dreams in the workplace, and even sometimes the home and church. Many women feel misunderstood, mistreated, and alone during this stage. However, this becomes a catalyst that forces women to focus on change and give real thought to what they truly want in life. But a lot of times it doesn't happen in the 30s. Now, if you are part of this new generation where you guys are just taking it by storm, that might be you. But my generation, I'm 47, we are just now, there's like an awakening. There comes an unquenchable desire for the work we do outside of the home to contribute more than money. We long for our work to be fulfilling and meaningful and line up with our values and callings. Now, many women desire to leave work and do something new, and there are so many women entrepreneurs because the workplace, the corporate workplace, and the what we're doing for a living for other people are just not fulfilling that creative side of us, that desire to fulfill our God-given dreams and purposes and actual callings through the work that we do. And I know there's a younger generation that is stepping out and doing it right away, but I'm talking to women who have worked for years in careers that at some point they're no longer fulfilled. At some point, many women feel trapped in the work they do because they've created a lifestyle that depends on the money they contribute to their family income. Others feel confined by the way they've allowed life and other people to define them or control them. Even if money's not a concern, even if you have money, maybe somebody else holds the money strings. Even if you have money, maybe maybe you don't need the money, you don't need your job, but your other source of money may be a relationship or something that is abusive. I don't know, but sometimes you feel controlled, like you don't have control over your own life. Many women choose to stay at home, long to do more than stay at home, or to make home a place where they can also be creative and build their business or their dream during this stage of life. The wheels start spinning. By the time we enter our 40s, many of us stop trying to prove ourselves to others. We've outgrown many of our fears, and we look at what kind of future we'll have if we continue on the same path. That's where I found myself that day. We begin to focus on what really matters to us, having already sacrificed so much of what we want for the people we love. And that is what we're supposed to do. That is what I believe in, sacrificing our interests for the sake of our family when necessary, and even when it's not, is what you do when you're building a family. However, there comes a time when we begin to think about what we want to do with our lives. We think about how we can fully embrace our God-given identities, purpose, callings, and callings together, apart from yet still connected to our roles as wives, mothers, and professionals, to fulfill our own God-given dreams that we can't shake. You can't shake it. You just feel like there's something else, right? We desire to fully and unapologetically step into our authentic identities as the women that God called us to be. Those authentic identities that many women never step into because they're afraid of change. This is the intersection of midlife. During this time, we often reassess our identities, our relationships, our health, our happiness, our faith, our financial standing, careers, and our callings to make changes while we feel we have time. This is the intersection I found myself at only a few years ago. And so we've talked about that. Let me just share for those who are in midlife. Midlife, some psychologists say, is between 45 and 55. Some say between age 40 and 60. What we do know is that it starts at 40 something and it lasts about 10 years. In the past, the major issues women faced at the intersection of midlife were the transition from mothering children to becoming empty nesters with their husbands. But in this modern age, Things have changed for women. While many women have children, some have never married. Some have divorced or are going through a divorce right now in this stage. Others have remarried or desire to remarry. Many women haven't had children but still desire to. And so many of us are working our day jobs while launching our dreams. We're starting businesses and ministries to do the work that really matters to us on our own terms. We're active in our ministries and other organizations. We're influential leaders inside and outside the home. We carry the weight of the roles and responsibilities that God assigned to us, and some He did not assign to us. Have you ever taken on something that you knew you weren't supposed to do? I'll leave that for another time. But with all these roles and responsibilities, because of what's at stake, women have to consider the risk when making decisions about their future. Yeah, you could just up and leave, but you should never make permanent decisions or things that could be permanent when you're having a temporary emotion. So hence the pause, the plan, the prepare, the paint a new picture, which this book is about, how to take the reins and make acts of brave change. I haven't named the book yet. I know it's in there somewhere, but anyway. So that being said, in my pause, which I write about in detail in the book, that time of Selah, that time of calming my soul, calming and quieting my soul, to be able to hear from God and get His direction and to take the reins. My reins instruct me in the night season. That's what Psalm 16 says. And so in that time, and I get into what reins means biblically, during that time, I had wrote these letters to myself. And so tonight I will share one of them. I'm scrolling down to try and find one that I think I want to share tonight. Let's see. And these are very vulnerable letters. I'm just going to share one. And sometime, well, let's see. What do I want? Let me see what I want to share. It's pretty scary to share these, and I've struggled with sharing the letters with y'all, and they're short letters, but they need to be shared. I needed to write them to myself because these were things, and so when you go through this process, I want you to write what you need to hear, what your younger self speaks to you. Let's see. Let me read this one. Love will come again. I know your clock is ticking, and some days you ask yourself if you'll ever find love again, and if you'll ever have an intimate relationship again, if you'll ever get married again. You can and you will when you're truly ready. But you have to do more than just believe. I know it's scary, but you have to make yourself available if you want to be found, and learn to feel comfortable going on dates again. However, you don't have to settle just because you're getting older. Remember, God has a purpose for you and your mate. If you rush love, you may find something that looks like love, but later feels like bondage. There's a saying, if you leave love up to God, He will give you His best. But if you follow your flesh in matters of love, you will probably end up in a great big mess. This time, take it slow and be sure you'll know love when you see it. And the scripture verse for that is Ruth 2:2. And that is a letter that my younger self, the wisdom, the woman that knows me, the girl who is also a woman that knows me better than anyone else, spoke to me. Because when your younger self speaks to you, she is going to speak truth. You don't have to hide from her. You don't have to hide your secrets. She knows them just like God, and she is your reins. Let me just share what reins is, and then I'm gonna go. Okay, I just want you to understand this. Y'all, I feel like I need to go ahead and release this book. I've been really on the fence about it. Like, is it gonna matter? Is it necessary? Psalm 16:7. Y'all let me know. I will bless the Lord who has given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night season. The English word reins refers to the thing that controls or guides you. But that's the English word. But the word in the King James Version of the Bible for reins, that is translated reins, means kidney, in the interior self, the conscience, or the mind. And so in this verse, to give counsel means to consult, to guide, or to advise, and to show. Instruct means to teach, to correct, and to chastise. God guides us with his spirit, but our conscience instructs and corrects us and bears witness that what God is advising us is true. To take the reins is to allow the truth your younger self reveals to you, to instruct and inform your decision as God reveals his purpose and plans for you. And so when I talk about take the reins, I'm talking about taking the instruction, the correction, the rebuke, the truth that your younger self will reveal to you when you tap in, when you pause before you make those brave changes. Now, I could have gotten to the real steps of how you make these brave changes. Those are the steps in the book that I walk you through so that you can break through, that you can really get in, and that will help guide you through writing these letters. But I shared my letters. There's a lot of good questions in this book. I think we have 14 or 15 questions with also instructions and scriptures that you walk through, and then I share my letters that you can read each day. And so I pray that this helped you, whether you're listening or watching, and I will see you tomorrow for Vlogtober with another letter. So I just wanted to do an introductory video or podcast and share with you guys the reason why I'm doing this. So it's a little long today, but they will be shorter as I share a letter and then talk about that with you guys. That letter was about finding love and knowing it and not settling for anything less than God's best in this season. God bless you.